another live streaming on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else live streams happen, including YouTube usually, and also Facebook. So we have a few questions. I'll just go over them quickly. The first one is from Heather, who had has undergone huge lifestyle changes in the past and got pretty sick a few days after she got vaccinated. Got some help from a holistic doctor. Has a sensitivity to EMFs. Is wondering if COVID injury is related to mold, sugar, and does she need to be a saint with her diet forever? Yeah, this is really a great question. So we'll get to that first. And Jenny Fi says, what are your experiences with vagus stimulation devices? Also another good question. Donna Parsons says, I've been hearing about the potential healing of some cancers from ivermectin. Are you familiar with that? Also a great question. Debbie says, I have this awful loud noise in my ears, like something is running. It's deafening. Started a couple of weeks ago. Very common symptom. What can I do for the noise in my ears? And it's driving me nuts. Yeah, I've helped people with that, so we'll cover that briefly. Kendra Simmersek says, I've had postnatal drip for over 15 months now, tried everything I can. Will the surgery for GERD help with this? Yeah, I would basically say no, don't do surgery. Even if it helps for a short while, it usually, it doesn't address the underlying problem, so the underlying problem just keeps getting worse. And we'll talk about that. An anonymous member says, hi, so I've had long COVID since March 2020. The only thing that ever helped were cetirizine and famotidine, which are antihistamines, but now I can't tell if cetirizine is doing anything anymore. However, I'm scared to stop. This is a great point that they're making about how when you don't address the root cause, the problem worsens, and eventually the management that you put into place stops working. Whether that's mainstream medicine, alternative medicine, herbs, lifestyle measures even. So we'll get to that and see what we can do about it. Ella Jones says, I need suggestions. I have severe long COVID and I'm going through post-exertional malaise now. She's very sensitive to everything. She's quitting all her supplements except for multivitamins for a few days. Wondering what to do about her mitochondria because she thinks that's the root cause of everything, mitochondrial dysfunction, which you could say it is the root cause, but it doesn't really answer why the mitochondria are dysfunctioning. So wondering if she should take a mitochondrial maximizer supplement or not. Vlajku Claudia says, so how can we find the root cause of chronic gastritis, exocrine pancreas insufficiency, systemic inflammation? How do we regulate the nervous system? Should I do brain retraining? Lungobark doesn't work. I think we might have spoken about this last time too, or maybe it was a follow-up to last week, one of last week's questions. Anonymous member says, hi, the humidity in my house is low. Just wondered how people get on with humidifiers. Are they safe for us with MCAS and asthma? And Joyce Seaton asked, how do I help with ATP production, which is basically energy production, which is also a very interesting question. All right, so if you guys have any questions during the live stream, drop them in the chat and I'll try to get to them as soon as I see them. So going back to Heather Hu, I'll read the question in total. I have done huge lifestyle changes over many years, including cancer prevention diet about 40 years ago. When I got vaccinated, excuse me, I will this time not snooze it, but turn it off. All right. She's done huge lifestyle changes over the many years, including cancer prevention diet about 40 years ago. When I got vaccinated, I felt like I was drifting away and got help 3 days in with a holistic doctor and chelating supplements, which helped to bind toxins. Finally realizing I likely need to follow a very careful diet and forever stay away from sugar, ice cream. These are not treats anymore. As well, I'm sensitive to Wi-Fi and cell phones and I have benefited by using these very little. Is COVID injury related to mold, sugar? Do I need to be a saint with the diet forever? Maybe it's worth it. Also, I've dabbled in brain rewiring and fixing the limbic system injury. Thank you for the free course on your website. Very helpful. All right. Great. So I'm not sure which free course she's talking about, but There's probably a few of them. We have a bunch of free stuff at mygotodoc.com. If you scroll down, you can request various ebooks and courses and stuff. So this is a fantastic question because it gets to really the heart of true healing. And I think distinguishes flawed methodologies from valid ones, from real healing methodologies. So a real healing methodology should reverse the damage and get you back to a place where you can essentially normalize your lifestyle within the real norms of a human lifestyle, right? So that doesn't mean that you can, continue exposing yourself to pesticides and, not sleep ever and stay up all night and play video games all the time and expect to be healthy. But it does mean that you should be able to tolerate carbs, fats, proteins in normal quantities and amounts. You should be able to put up with some degree of toxicity from the world around you, because that's always going to be there, but your body detoxifies it. So in order to reach this state, we have to understand that almost no one's trying to get you to that state. Okay, so modern mainstream medicine, their approach is they think your body's broken. For some reason they don't understand, and they're going to give you medications to cover up the symptoms. That leaves the root causes, which are toxicity and lack of nutrients. That's it. Those are the only root causes that exist. So toxicity from pathogens, toxins, and lack of nutrients. It leaves those to continue working their destruction on your body. And so eventually, even if you cover up the initial symptoms, the symptoms will break through the Band-Aid that you've applied, or some new symptoms will show up because it'll break something else. So that's mainstream medicine. And then you've got alternative medicine, you've got herbs and stuff, right? And usually the approach is the same. Let's basically cover up the symptoms instead of helping you detoxify and, giving you the micronutrients that you need and strengthening your body so that it can get rid of toxins and then get to a point where it's continually getting rid of toxins instead of letting them pile up and create the illness. And then you've got people who do lifestyle medicine, right? They do these fantastic lifestyle maneuvers like continuous, intermittent fasting, or, avoiding entire macronutrient groups like, extremely low carb or zero carb, just keto or carnivore or just vegetarian, no meat. And so there's a number of variations, eating at certain times, eating a certain way, and becoming very strict about what you eat and when you eat. And that is essentially the same approach as the other flawed approaches if you're just planning to do that forever. Sorry, I got triggered Siri. So anyway, getting back to it, it's still a flawed approach because you're not truly addressing the deep underlying problem. It's not just like food. It's not just that, you can't tolerate carbs and you never could, because there was a time when you obviously could tolerate carbs and you did fine with them. And there was a time before modernity, 1900s and before, the early 1900s and before that, when it was almost impossible to create insulin resistance or diabetes or high blood pressure or chronic fatigue syndrome in anyone, anywhere in the world. These were unheard of diseases. These are modern diseases. And they're toxicity diseases, okay? That's what they are. They're not lifestyle diseases. They're not dietary diseases. They're not lack of exercise diseases. What they are is toxin-induced diseases, okay? So these are diseases of you're being poisoned by a lot of stuff, by electromagnetic fields, by blue light, which is an electromagnetic field, light, improper lighting, that is electromagnetism, lack of sunlight, an electromagnetic deficiency, right, syndrome, and chemical toxins, all kinds of environmental toxins, essentially, in the water, the air, the food, everywhere. We've got these toxins, these pesticides, these heavy metals, all of this stuff. We are being poisoned. And once we become weaker, pathogens can come in. Pathogens may actually be helping us with the poisoning, mold and parasites and, pathogenic bacteria and viruses, all these things come in to weaken tissues, and they oftentimes help to sequester toxins to help us, deal with them and not be harmed by them. We get fat. This is very, very common in the modern world, obviously. Why do we get fat? Fat binds toxins, just like mold sequesters toxins. Fat sequesters toxins too. And so you can kind of like lock them away in this prison of your own fat cells. Okay, so being fat is not actually bad for you. Just like high blood pressure is not bad for you, this and that, like all of these are symptoms of the real problem, which is toxicity and then pathogenicity. And then because you're fighting all this toxicity and pathogenicity all the time, you become nutrient deficient. You lose nutrients. And eventually it gets worse and worse as you get older, and eventually the toxicity starts to wear you down, and the pathogenicity starts to wear you down, and the lack of nutrients starts to wear you down, and the situation just gets worse and worse, especially if you don't address it, if you just cover it up. And one of the ways of covering it up, really important to understand, is like extreme dietary or lifestyle interventions, like exercising all the time, right? Yeah, sure, you're going to feel great for a few years, but eventually you get burnt out, and you haven't actually addressed the real root cause, which was the toxicity. Yeah, I mean, initially exercising helps your body address toxicity. It helps improve bowel movements. It helps, improve everything. But there's only so much it can do. And if you just keep pushing the limit on and just raising the bar on how much you exercise, how little you eat, all of these lifestyle interventions, you start to become more and more trapped within extreme lifestyle measures, right? It becomes harder and harder to maintain. You have to eliminate more and more foods from your diet. You have to get stricter and stricter, but you stay one step ahead of the illness, the toxicity, but eventually it catches up to you. Catches up. So you can't stay ahead of it forever. What you have to do is you have to kill the toxicity. You have to get rid of the toxicity, not try to stay just one step ahead of it as it keeps growing. So yes, you can get rid of all these restrictions to your diet and your lifestyle if you detoxify. That's the message. But how do you do that? You have to do it gradually. If you do it too quickly, toxins will flood your system, your bloodstream, make you extremely sick, clog up your pathways of elimination, like how they actually get out of your body. So you can release toxins, for example, by losing weight. Why do all these people have Ozempic face? Why do they look like death, warmed over? Because they're forcing their bodies to lose fat, right? By hacking their metabolism and hacking their appetite. So they're applying a hack, but it's a similar hack as any other hack, right? Including just cutting calories is a hack, right? You can force yourself through willpower alone to eat less than you want to. But you have to ask yourself, where does the appetite come from? Your body has a set point for its weight, and it's determined by how much fat you need in you, right? And one of the things that tells your body I need more fat is when you have excess toxicity that you're not able to get rid of through the normal avenues of elimination, like sweating. If you never sweat, you're obviously not using that pathway of elimination. If you never sleep, you're not detoxifying your brain, which only happens while you're asleep. If you never, and your brain is full of fat, so a lot of toxins get stored there. If you're not having good bowel movements, or your liver is not supported or strong, it's not detoxifying things. Your liver is one of the main organs of detoxification that will neutralize toxins and then expel them into your stool so you can get them out of your body. If you're not supporting the detox pathways with like toxin binders in your gut so that the toxins don't just recirculate from your gut back into your bloodstream and then back into your gut, back in your bloodstream, that can happen. If you're not urinating properly, if you're not drinking enough fluids, if you're not doing breath work just to kind of calm your body down, if you're not, so basically you have to support yourself with things that help your autonomic nervous system work better, like breath work. I do like 25 minutes of breath work a day, trying to help my body detoxify. And then I do a sauna or a hot bath every single day, and that gets the sweat going and helps you expel a lot of heavy metals, a lot of other stuff into your sweat. I do coffee enemas every day, which helps bolster your liver detox systems, open up the avenue of detox that comes through your liver and gallbladder. Drink a lot of fluids with all kinds of like herbs and things in them. helps to keep the urine going and get toxins out through the urine. Take chlorella, you can take other binders. And then while you're dealing with these physical toxins, you also have to be taking antimicrobials to help to gradually kill off the microbes. And biofilm busters like pancreatic enzymes, various enzyme supplements. So there's Vitalzyme, there's Synergy something, Pure Synergy, I think. It's another enzyme supplement, something like that. I forget the exact name, but basically various enzyme supplements with things like nattokinase, serrapeptase, bromelain. We have a great one at my go-to stack. It's specifically geared towards detoxifying spike protein, but also has these, the enzymes are multi-use enzymes. They help to break up improperly folded proteins within tissues. Amyloidosis, this is oftentimes happening with a lot of illnesses, not just long COVID and vaccine injury. They help to break up clots. They help to break up biofilms. Biofilms are these mucus layers that are secreted by microorganisms to help protect them from the antibiotics that your own body produces and from other microbes and from the antibiotics that you're taking to kill them. So one thing to be aware of is that you have to go slowly, you have to go gradually, and you kind of have to sneak up on these things. Otherwise, they can get more deeply entrenched in your body. They can run and hide. They can go into, stasis and hibernate. And you also need to recruit your own immune system to help you. You can't really get the job done without an active immune system. So you got to boost the immune system. You got to deal with leaky gut, which is also a source of toxins, a big, huge source of toxicity. So you're getting toxicity from your diet. And part of the reason is because of this leaky gut. And in order to switch off leaky gut, in order to protect yourself from that while you're healing the gut, before you can go back to a normal diet, you need to be on a restricted diet. It's a healing phase of your diet. And then later on, after months or maybe a year or two, you would gradually reintroduce foods. Along the way, you can reintroduce them oftentimes after a few months, depending on how sick you are, but you can't introduce everything all at once. You kind of have to introduce things step by step. And since almost every chronic illness includes insulin resistance, you have to be low carb initially. You don't have to be low carb forever. But you have to solve the insulin resistance. You have to solve the toxicity and protect yourself from elevated glucose and inflammation while you're solving the toxicity. So it sometimes can look like you're following the same super restrictive stuff, but it's part of a broader plan and a broader arc, right? So you have to take into account the reason people are doing things and how long they continue doing them before they stop. So essentially, this is the way you heal anything. I mean, this is like the answer to all the questions. All right, it's just one answer. Understand what the problem is. It's toxicity and pathogens, toxins and pathogens on one hand, lack of nutrients on the other. You have to understand that these two main buckets exist at multiple levels, not just the physical, and these higher levels like the emotional, spiritual, intellectual, energetic, all that stuff feeds into the physical. So if you're imbalanced due to toxicity and lack of nourishment at an emotional level, that will exhaust the physical organs that are reflected by that toxicity and lack of nourishment. And then they will also become affected by physical toxins and lack of nutrients because they're under all this stress and they're using up a lot of energy and they're using up nutrients and they're becoming affected by physical toxins just because of, this is the way the body works. It's a reflection and a manifestation of our heart and soul and mind. Really, it's all one thing. You're all one thing, but there are these different ways of looking at it, at yourself, and they all feed into each other and they all affect each other. And when you don't deal with the toxicity in a particular organ, eventually all the organs become taxed because they're all interconnected through feedback loops and whatnot. Especially the heart. So the heart is trying to keep a balance between all different parts of your body, and it really can't when there's chronic toxicity and inflammation and whatnot in a particular organ. So Yeah, you need to fix the limbic system. You need to rewire the brain. All that stuff is part of healing. It doesn't have to be as complicated as it seems if you find the right person. So I highly recommend just cutting to the chase and going to Hakeem Shabazz, who is our resident natural healing expert and really the best in the world in my mind. I think he's absolutely the best. So mygotodoc.com/Hakim, Hakim, is where you can find him. You do have to be willing to work, okay? Because it's a gradual process. You don't want to speed through it too quickly. You want to get, it's for the long haul. Reap the benefits of it if you really give it its due for a few months and follow the directions and don't cheat and just do exactly what you're told. But it does take hours every day. That's my experience to really, really solve the deeper problems. Anyone who's gone through a significant illness, they were sick years and years and years, maybe decades before they knew that they were sick. They had a lot of toxicity that the body was just putting up with, and eventually got so bad that, there was a straw that broke the camel's back and disease was manifested. You can roll back the disease and rehabilitate the camel and it gets back up again. But if it's still overwhelmed with a lot of toxicity, you're always very close. You're always just that one straw or two away from the disease coming right back. Or, and one of those straws is just getting older. So you really need to correct a lot of underlying toxicity. That's why it takes, as long as it takes and gets as complicated as it does. It's because there's a lot more going on that doesn't meet the eye. All right, so let me just check and see if we got any comments. Andrea says, hi, Dr. Haider. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I'm concerned about my liver. A doctor is concerned about my liver, and the CT scan was okay. But they think my blood isn't moving much. You know how we all have mud blood now. And for me, it's true. The last few blood draws, my blood hardly comes out, and I'm retaining fluid. Do you like lumbrikinase or nattokinase, serokinase better? I like nattokinase, serokinase to start with. And, if you're not getting anywhere, then you can certainly switch to lumbrikinase, and sometimes you might even use all three, but you want to start at a low dose and gradually increase. And so, just because blood's not coming out from a particular spot in the body doesn't mean that your blood is that thickness everywhere. Your body doesn't like you to keep taking blood out from a particular place, and it has there's a specific energetic and physical and emotional and mental effect that comes from where specifically you take the blood out. And the blood will get harder to take out. It's because those veins might get sclerotic and thin down and become clogged, and it's eventually you may not be able to get blood out of there at all. But if you stuck a needle into a major vein, blood would flow easily. It wouldn't come out like this. So it might be clotting because of all the kind of like sclerosis and narrowing and stuff throughout the vein that you keep going for. So I would try to change it up. And honestly, I don't think that giving blood frequently is really a solution. Once you know you have the problem, you should be able to know just from that whether you need blood to figure out the problem or not. But once you have the problem, isolated and you know what it is, you just treat it and you track symptoms. You don't have to keep doing blood draws over and over again, especially when you're in a situation like this where you're doing them too frequently and you're noticing that the blood is having trouble coming out. You'll know when you're getting better because you'll feel better. And if your symptoms aren't significantly improving, it doesn't matter what your labs are doing, right? And usually we misinterpret our symptoms and our signs in our labs, and physicians do too. They think that what they see is the problem. It's not the problem. It's almost never the problem. We almost never actually directly visualize the problem. We see its effects, right? So we see clotting, for example, which is a lot of that is you yourself. Your own clotting mechanisms are clotting. You have to ask, why are they clotting, right? And not focus solely on reversing the clotting, which seems to be what a lot of people do. A lot of people are like, okay, should I take nattokinase? Should I take lumbricine? Should I take this and that? That's fine, but if that's all you're doing, and so I understand that you're trying to, you're assuming, okay, it's a spike protein. It's microclots from the spike protein. So the nattokinase, serokinase, lumbricase, they're going to break up the microclots. They're also going to break up the spike protein. Okay, great. Now, what are you doing to maximize your body's ability to take that broken up spike protein and get it out of your body, to take those chopped up clots and get them out of your body? Because if you don't get rid of them, those chopped up clots will just reform bigger clots, full clots, right? The chopped up spike protein will also continue to trigger problems and cause clotting and all its issues. So a lot of people are doing part of what they need to do. They're addressing a piece of the puzzle by destroying the problem, but then they haven't maximized the complete elimination of the thing that they just killed or chopped up or broke up or whatever. And then it can continue to hurt you and cause problems. So you have to do the sweating, and you have to do the coffee enemas, and you have to do the lots of, fluids and urinating a lot. Spike protein will come out in your urine. And you have to boost your body's ability to help to clean things up, right? So the immune system and the body itself is what's going to take out the trash. And so there's a lot of components to that, right? Like the lymphatics have to be softened up and opened up. The veins have to be opened up. All this stuff, your body has to just be strengthened and working properly. So you need the autonomic nervous system bolstered, because that's what, the autonomic nervous system is what helps you eliminate problems, toxins, and pathogens. That's the rest and digest and eliminate, system. If it's weakened, which it is by chronic disease, and the sympathetic is overpowering it, you're not resting and digesting and detoxifying properly. You're not having full, complete elimination. So you need to bolster that. You need to heat your body up a lot every single day so that you can liquefy some of the clogs that are everywhere in your detoxification elimination systems. You need to just religiously stop taking any toxins in, as many as you can, including vegetable seed oils. This doesn't include olive oil, which is a fruit oil from the pulp of the olive, not from the seed. So the vegetable seed oils, particularly canola, sunflower, safflower, all of those common cheap cooking oils, will clog things up. They like plasticize you. They make your lymphatic pathways clogged up. They clog up your fat. They change the structure of your cells because all your cell walls are made of lipid bilayers or fatty bilayers, and the vegetable oils are too liquid, especially when you're eating too many of them. You kind of liquefy those lipid bilayers so the walls aren't as firm. And so that changes every tissue's ability to function properly. And it changes the activity of hormones. It changes a lot. You need a proper amount of sun. You need a proper amount of sleep, especially. Very, very important. You need to clean up the diet and avoid the things that trigger autoimmune, reactions or leaky gut, basically. Not that autoimmunity is necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing. But you need to clean up the leaky gut part of it. So, because otherwise you're just going to be absorbing a lot of toxins and reabsorbing toxins that are trying to come out of your body. Take binders, so it's the same as any other illness. How does fear relate to the liver? So in traditional Chinese medicine, fear affects the kidney. But like I said before, any organ that's strained beyond its capacity by chronic, emotional toxicity will affect the other organs that connect to it. So all the organs are connected to each other. And when the kidneys are chronically depleted, then the other organs will also become overwhelmed by trying to pick up the slack or being affected by the kidneys not doing the work that they're supposed to do. So it certainly does affect the liver. And the other reason it affects the liver is primarily affected by anger. But a lot of times anger at the root of it is fear. So why is that? It doesn't make any sense. It's easy to understand when you realize that there's two reactions to becoming frightened, right? One is that you fight back, you get angry and you attack, and the other is that you get scared and run away. But they both begin with fear, right? So, at the heart of courage is fear. So you are afraid, and you just buck up and do it anyway. It's not you're crazy, right? If you're not actually afraid. So yeah, real courage requires fear. It requires it's courage in the face of fear. Otherwise, it's not really a big deal, right? If you're completely unafraid, if there's no consequences, if you're one of these psychopaths and you don't feel fear, I mean, how impressive is that, right? Not as impressive. So it's when the stakes are high and the outcome matters and it matters to you and you just do it anyway. That's real courage. So, but anyway, you can overdo it and you can just become angry all the time, right? So if you're chronically frightened, and that creates a chronic state of anger and anger outbursts over and over again. Maybe you're afraid of getting hurt. Maybe you were raised by somebody who constantly harmed you emotionally, right? Withheld love and screamed at you and shouted at you and hit you and just was mean all the time. And you became afraid, right? Of that, the emotional damage that they could do to you. And then, you start to recreate the same kind of thing that they were giving you, right? You start lashing out with anger and you constantly think people are trying to hurt you. You're constantly misinterpreting situations. So anyway, this is a common issue that people have. And that's one of the biggest ways that fear can kind of indirectly harm the liver. But the main emotion that affects the liver is going to be anger, out of place anger, overdoing the anger. Can Shilajit cause a sudden and extreme dairy and food intolerance? I don't know. It's possible. Anything's possible. So Shilajit, the issue with that is toxins, right? So you have to be super, super certain of the source of the Shilajit and that it's been tested properly. So that's one thing I would worry about, that maybe the Shilajit itself had some toxins in it, and that toxicity is what triggered your dairy and food intolerances. So that's a possibility. That would probably be my main concern with this happening after Shilajit, not non-toxic Shilajit having like a side effect. That doesn't sound likely to me. But Shilajit also, if it's not affected by a lot of toxins like heavy metals, it itself has fulvic and humic acid, which can help to detoxify your body. And sometimes when you trigger detoxification and when you start to get rid of toxins, that can create severe symptoms of any kind, including food intolerances, especially if you hadn't done the preliminary work before you start taking the thing that triggers the toxin release from your cells. So you don't want to trigger toxin release from your cells until you've done the work of strengthening the organs of final elimination, right? The ones that actually get the toxins, take them from your bloodstream and throw them out of your body entirely. So just triggering detoxification, like release of toxins from the cells that are holding them, is just the beginning. The second step is, can they travel from those cells through the blood and the lymphatics and the veins to the organs that are going to, finally expel them from the body? Do those organs work? And are the pathways out of those organs open and, being stimulated and used like sweat? And if there's a blockage along the way, anywhere along the way, the toxins won't actually leave the body. They'll just recirculate back and be bound up by the tissues again. And during that, process, that recirculation process, you'll feel terrible because the toxins will be in your bloodstream affecting you. So Jenny asked, what are your experiences with vagus stimulation devices like NeuroSim, Next Generation, and so on? Are they helpful? Yeah, they can be helpful, but yeah, you can just do breath work, so, just the 15 minutes you're going to spend doing a vagal stimulation, just do breath work. I don't think that they're helpful enough that they make a huge enough difference that you should, unless you're just not going to do the breath work and you just like technology, fine. But I think most people need probably more like 30 minutes a day, and there's a limit to how much of the vagal nerve stimulation you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to do more than 10 or 15 minutes. So you still need some more. You still need to do some breath work. It's not really a big deal. Just set an alarm for 15 minutes, lie down or sit down or whatever, and do some alternate nostril breathing or some box breathing or some, different kinds of breath work that help you to relax and calm down. So I do think people need more than the vagal nerve stimulator, but some people have found benefit from them. And some people also find benefit from the stellate ganglion block, which helps to, in many cases, seems to reset the autonomic nervous system. But other things to help support, autonomic nervous system health are just going to be good sleep and detoxification in general, because the toxins within people are part of the reason that their autonomic nervous system is overwhelmed because it's constant stress, it's constant activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Donna Parsons says, I've been hearing about the potential healing of some cancers from ivermectin. Are you familiar with these studies? If so, what are your thoughts? Yeah, definitely possible to suppress a lot of cancers and even get rid of a lot of cancers with ivermectin. I wouldn't, actually, one of our patients just got rid of cancer using ivermectin and mebendazole and vitamin C and baking soda, the protocol put together by Adam Gertner. And you can find it. I think it's still the pinned post on my Substack, blog.mygotodoc.com, blog.mygotodoc.com. So that's a very simple protocol. It doesn't include any dietary changes, any other detoxification strategies, nothing. It's just, take these 4 things for, 3 weeks and then repeat the dosing again and again and again, in these 3-week cycles or 20-day cycles until the cancer is gone, and then monitor to see if it recurs. That might work for a lot of people, but a lot of other people have tried that and it didn't work. So I know some very famous people for whom it didn't work. Okay, so even health influencers for whom it didn't work at all. I think that Tom Renz, for example, his wife, he's publicly stated that she's struggling with cancer and she tried those protocols and they didn't do anything. So it's not like a magic bullet. It doesn't always work. If you want something that I think will work no matter what, if you do it, if you implement it properly, then it's going to be a lot harder than just popping a few pills and stuff and calling it a day. It's going to include radical lifestyle change and take hours a day to accomplish. And it's going to include a lot of detoxification, a lot of emotional work sooner or later, and a lot of supplementation. And then you move on, the cherry on top are the things like the ivermectin and the fenbendazole and vitamin C and baking soda and all of those. They're not the core thing. And it's the same as what I was talking about before about really dealing with the underlying root cause. The cancer itself is not the root cause problem. The root cause problem is toxicity, absolutely, especially with cancer, but with every other disease too. The cells are under severe stress and strain from toxicity. So you can kill off the cells that have gone crazy and turned cancerous without getting rid of the toxicity, which means the toxicity remains. And oftentimes you actually get even more toxicity released from the cells themselves, the cancer cells, as they die off, because they were the most affected by the toxins. They have the toxins within them. They are harboring the toxins. And when you kill them, those toxins are released, just like when you kill fungi or mold that is sequestering toxins. If you do it too quickly, the toxins are released and you might get sicker, you might get another illness, you might get another cancer, a different kind, you might get dementia. So sometimes when you get rid of dementia, you get cancer. So you can eliminate the disease that you're aiming for, which is not the real problem itself, right? It's a manifestation, it's a reaction to the real problem. So unless you actually go for the root, you're not going to solve your real problem. Either the same disease will come back when it's really, in which case it's really obvious that you didn't solve your problem, or that disease won't come back, some other disease will pop up, right? But the reason is the same toxicity that you didn't deal with before. So if you leave a problem, it just keeps growing, okay? Because the problem, things don't just disappear on their own, right? So the toxins took decades to build up in most cases, not always. And that usually indicates a chronic exposure to some toxicity, right? And it usually begins at the emotional, psychological level where you have the real problem, actually. That weakens the physical body. And then the physical manifestation of that is toxicity and lack of nutrients in the physical body, which leads to the disease that manifests, right? So even if you fix the toxicity and the pathogenicity and the nutrient deficiency at the physical level without addressing the emotional core of it, you'll still be, that organ system will still be prone to nutrient deficiency, toxicity, and pathogenicity, and you may be able to hold it at bay with supplements and, vitamins and pills and, antimicrobials and all this stuff at the physical plane for a period of time. But the true problem keeps building, right? The emotional core of it keeps getting worse, which puts more and more strain on the physical organ. Eventually, you can't supplement your way out of it. You can't, blast your way out of it by trying to kill microbes. Eventually, you get overwhelmed by the higher level toxicity, pathogenicity, and then the physical manifestation of it returns. Robert Muniz, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Robert Muniz says, "Hi, Dr. Haider, thank you for the work you do. My question is, can you recommend some detoxification strategies?" So it's always best to work with somebody like Shabazz Ahmed at mygotodoc.com/Hakeem. But in general, the strategy for detoxification is that you start at a low dose and you start gradually, and you do a number of things kind of together and very gradually escalate them over time, over the course of months. You don't want to trigger a Herxheimer reaction. You don't want to get super sick from it. You want to, like I've already been talking about it, you want to get so you have to understand that there's organs that, help to detoxify toxins. And there's organs that just expel toxins from the body. And so these organs are basically the same organs. So you've got the skin, and it detoxifies and it expels toxins through sweat. You got the liver, and it will, when it's working properly, when it's, strong and working properly, it's going to conjugate certain toxins and detoxify them, and other toxins it'll just expel into your bile. From your bile, it goes into your duct and into your gut, and then through your stool, it leaves your body. But while it's in your stool, it can be reabsorbed into your bloodstream. So you want to have toxin binders in the gut, like chlorella and bentonite clay and activated charcoal and zeolite and things like that. I've gotten really far just using chlorella. I haven't had to add any of these other ones, but sometimes people do have to add other ones. And then your urine, you need to drink plenty of fluids so that you're urinating throughout the day, a lot, so that that avenue of elimination, toxins are coming out. The toxins that are sent to your kidneys come out in your urine, but only if you urinate, plenty and often. And then, so heating up your body will help to kind of liquefy a lot of things that are clogged up, like your lymphatics, which help to drain toxins out of your body as well. So getting hot every day, sweating every day, and then optimizing your elimination pathways and supporting them. So any organ that needs support, eating that organ, from an animal in the raw form is the best way of supporting your own organ. So eating raw liver, raw kidney, and initially a lot of people need probably adrenal supplementation as well. So, you can get these things powdered and in capsule form, or you can get them from the butcher and just like blend them up into a paste and freeze them in ice cube trays and defrost 1 or 2 a day and consume them. That's the best way to do it. Thyroid hormone can also be super helpful and beneficial. Initially, it's not something that you would be taking forever. The liver is probably the safest one to take for a long period of time. But the other ones can be really helpful for most people initially. And so supporting the functioning of those organs by eating the organs themselves, especially the raw forms. And then coffee enemas are really probably indispensable in the modern world for healing liver toxicity, helping support the liver in detoxifying. So once a day, green coffee enema from Gold Coast. That's a very light roast coffee. You boil it you boil a heaping tablespoon in 1.5 liters of water for 5 minutes, and then you simmer it for 7 minutes, and then you let it cool down until you can keep your finger in it for about 6-7 seconds. So it should be warm to kind of hot, but not hot enough to burn your finger if you put it in there and leave it in there for 6-7 seconds. And then you lay down your right side, do a retention enema for 20 minutes. The right side is important because you don't want the coffee enema to go up really high into your colon. It's not like a high colonic kind of thing, which happens when you lie on your left side. You want it on the right side so that it stays right at the outlet of your colon in the rectum, in the sigmoid colon and rectum, in that area where it's going to be absorbed by certain certain veins that take it straight to the liver. Instead of entering the systemic circulation, it enters the enterohepatic circulation, as it's called, which means it goes straight to the liver, helps to stimulate the liver, and doesn't, give you the effects of caffeine throughout your body. So it'll stimulate the liver and the gallbladder system to open up and expel toxins even better. So, and then you take a binder like chlorella or some of the other ones that I mentioned, and you take antimicrobials like chlorine dioxide solution, like neem, like black walnut extract, like various herbs. There's another one that I'm taking, and turmeric, triphala, really fantastic, ashwagandha, and I can't remember the other one that I'm taking. But anyway, there's a lot, right? And if so eventually you're going to see, most people are going to see parasites coming out. That's one of the things that you can see. You may not see the die-off of other things like the mold and other things, but you will see the parasites coming out. A lot of people have pathogenicity in their skin also, and one of the ways of uncovering that is taking these hot baths every couple of days. So I put, this is a detox bath that has 200 grams of Epsom salt, 200 grams of sea salt. I add like a quarter or an eighth of a teaspoon of vitamin C powder, ascorbic acid, to neutralize any chlorine in the water. And it's got 2 capfuls of gum spirits of turpentine, which will help to kill off stuff in your skin, pathogens in your skin, and it can start burning. But any spots that are burning are due to it killing pathogens and causing inflammation in those areas. And I've been doing that for like 3 months now, and I still have burning every few days that I do this. Some of my baths, there's no burning at all, and then again, like a few days later, it'll happen again. So these things are really, really deeply rooted, and it takes a long time to completely eliminate them. You take biofilm busters, like I think biocidin is one. That's not what I'm using, but that's one. Just pancreas supplements can help, and then enzyme supplements, like I said before, Vitalzyme and Pure Synergy, I think, is the other one. These are very beneficial as biofilm busters, and then the AIP diet to address leaky gut toxicity from leaky gut, and so that's autoimmune paleo and low carb, unless you are absolutely certain that you have zero insulin resistance. And intermittent fasting can be really helpful. Very, very powerful detoxification method. You got to maximize, optimize your sleep to help to mobilize toxins from your brain, head and neck area, and brain. I mean, this is part of the answer for ringing in the ears and any neurological symptoms, any head and neck symptoms, any eye problems, ear problems, nose problems, tooth problems, brain problems, scalp problems, any of those problems, hair problems on your head. The brain detox cream from Hakim Shabazz. It's a liposomal homemade detox cream, and you get some propolis. You rub that in, a tiny amount. Rub it in your neck, and then you rub in the brain detox cream over that, and then you wrap it in a castor oil pack and sleep with it. And then sleeping with castor oil packs on all the major organs can be really, really beneficial for helping those organs heal and detoxify. Super, super helpful. You basically, the way I do it is you put a t-shirt on and soak it in castor oil, all over front and back. And then you put flannel over that, or a trash bag or something. I don't really like the trash bag, but you put a flannel shirt over that, and then you lay down some thick towels on the bed and go to sleep like that. I know it's like gross and sticky and icky, but you get used to it. So those are some detoxification strategies. I know it seems crazy and overwhelming. Oh, and having a raw green juice every day is really super beneficial for helping to detoxify. And the other thing, detoxifying estrogen excess, moringa, and all these xenoestrogens that we're exposed to, as well as other toxins, can be, it's very beneficial to take moringa and broccoli seed sprouts. If you can get fresh broccoli seed sprouts, you can eat them every day. And if you can't, then you can use broccoli seed sprout powder, but you have to add mustard seed sprout powder. So I think I don't remember I just published a blog at blog.mygotodoc.com on the quantity of mustard seed powder you need to add to your broccoli seed sprout powder to activate it. You don't need it with the fresh broccoli seed sprouts because they have the activator in them. You just have to chew them up well. Are you able to work with patients from outside the US? Yes. If so, what's the process? Just go to mygotodoc.com. And for now, our sign-up process requires, I think, people to enter a US state or something, or choose a US address. Eventually, it's not going to require that anymore, but you can just make up an address if you need to get through the sign-up process, or call our phone number at mygotodoc.com. You'll see the phone number at the top of the page. Call that and we'll do the sign-up for you. Or you can, what I highly recommend, if you really want to deeply heal and you're ready to do the work, then go to mygotodoc.com/Hakim, Hakim, and talk to Hakim Shabazz, and he can work with people all over the world. Debbie Yunt-Drong says, I've had this awful loud noise in my ears, like something's running. It's deafening. It started a couple of weeks ago. I've had COVID and shedding like disease a couple of years ago. What can I do for the noise in my ears? It's driving me nuts. Please help. So like I said before, the head and neck detox cream, which we've posted many times in the past, and I think we need to put it up on a web page somewhere. It's just a Google document right now, but if anyone has the link, you can post it in the chat. If not, just let us know. We'll send you the link to it. So that, and if you haven't tried ivermectin, I've seen tremendous results from ivermectin for tinnitus. Balancing the autonomic nervous system is really probably one of the most important things to do for tinnitus. But really, we have to get back to basics. It's toxicity, pathogenicity, and micronutrient deficiency. And if you address these things, your symptoms will go away. So you have to get the toxins and the pathogens out of this head and neck area and out of the ears, and get rid of them and balance the autonomic nervous system. That's why, a lot of people with tinnitus, it gets better when they go into a stellate ganglion block, for example. It's just rebalancing the autonomic nervous system, getting things to calm down. But that doesn't solve the deeper problem. Why was it imbalanced to begin with? It's imbalanced because of toxicity, pathogenicity. If you don't get rid of the toxicity, pathogenicity, just hitting reset on the autonomic nervous system isn't going to solve your problem. Ultimately, it'll just come back. The autonomic nervous system will again get out of balance because of the ongoing toxicity, pathogenicity. So you need to detoxify, and you need to kill pathogens, and you need to support your body while you're doing that. So that's the solution. One of the toxins that very few people consider to be a toxin is electromagnetic fields. So you need to get rid of Wi-Fi. You need to go wired, do Ethernet connections at home. You need to stop using, your cell phone as much, barely use it at all. Just whatever you use your cell phone for, you do use a wired internet connection on your computer instead. You can get a wired connection to your phone as well. So you can get a converter that converts a regular Ethernet adapter to a cell phone connector, and then you can use wired internet on your phone. You should get a low EMF phone and just use it within certain strict times, in a focused way, and just get your work done and get off of it. For leisure and time activities, get a book or go and do something active outside. Talk to somebody. And there's an EMF cream, which we have, homemade EMF cream, which can help your body to deal with electromagnetic fields if you're exposed to them and you have no way out. But you should try to minimize exposure to electromagnetic fields and other toxins while you're getting better. And you don't have to know exactly which toxin or which pathogen is causing your problem, because the antimicrobial, the natural antimicrobials basically cover all pathogens. And then the toxin binders also oftentimes cover all toxins, and chlorella will help get rid of everything. It's not the best binder for every specific toxin, but it does help to bind all toxins, and all the other binders are similar, that they may not be optimized for any particular toxin, and there might be some other binder that is optimal for a particular toxin, but you don't need to get to optimal usually. You just need to get some level of efficacy and maintain it over time. So basically, you just have to assume that you have toxicity and you have pathogenicity and you have micronutrient deficiency. So then you pack in the micronutrients, you eat the most nutrient dense foods on the planet that you're able to tolerate and that are safest. So, that in my mind is going to be sardines. So low toxin sardines, we can get them, from a place that's not heavily polluted. The waters aren't polluted. Otherwise, they're wild, and so they're a deep sea fish, and they're wild. So as long as they're not fished from polluted waters, so avoid getting them from most Eastern countries, including China, and get them from the Western countries like Western Europe. You can get King Oscar sardines, and the vegetable juicing and the raw liver, at least one raw egg a day, plenty of vegetables, low carb. So you maximize nutrients, you take the antimicrobial drugs, you take the binders, you take the biofilm disruptors, you support the organ function, you stop with the toxins coming in, and that's basically the way to heal anything. There will be some specific details that will be different for every person, which I can't get into. I can't predict until I or Hakeem Shabazz talk to somebody. There will oftentimes be And then there will be a lot of changes that are made to the protocol. So no one's protocol is going to be exactly the same. This is just kind of broad strokes. And a lot of the magic will be in the specific details that you're just not going to be able to get unless you talk to somebody for hours and they really get into it. And especially you're not going to get to the higher level stuff. Like what are the emotional, psychological, intellectual changes that you need to make to deal with the problem at a higher level and support what you're doing physically. Kendra Simmer Sex says, I've had postnasal drip for over 15 months now and tried everything. Can the surgery for GERD help this? So like I said, when I introduced this question early on at the beginning of this live stream, surgery is like the last resort in my mind. It changes things irreversibly, right? And so you don't want to usually go for surgery unless it's an emergency, unless you have no other choice. You want the tissues to remain intact, and it's hard. You can't go back from it. And tissue. It's difficult to get a tissue to work the way it did before it had surgery done on it, and so surgery is like one of the most extreme examples of just doing a Band-Aid, but like an extreme form. I mean, it's not a Band-Aid, it's not harmless, right? Like you're just you're just covering up the symptoms. You're doing a workaround, right? But an irreversible workaround to make the symptoms stop. But that doesn't stop what's causing the symptoms. So the symptoms might stop, and you might think that the surgery cured your problem, but it hasn't cured the problem, right? So I don't know which surgery they're talking about for that, but so I don't think gastroesophageal reflux disease is causing postnasal drip. Postnasal drip can kind of mimic gastroesophageal reflux disease, so I'm not sure which surgery you're talking about, but I'm not sure what surgery they would be doing to clear up postnasal drip. But postnasal drip, very likely to be due to mold. But you have to ask, why is the mold there? The mold is there because of heavy metal and other toxicities like EMF toxicity, heavy metal, various toxins that it's binding and sequestering for you. So you don't want to just go straight to killing mold. Again, you want to, stimulate the organs of elimination, and you want to work on the emotional aspects of postnasal drip. So that requires talking to somebody who can figure out what those emotional aspects actually are. And ghee in the nostrils can be helpful. It also stimulates head and neck detox, the general head and neck detox cream that I mentioned earlier, avoiding EMFs initially, and addressing the deeper root cause will all help to solve this problem. Beatrice says, I saw you recently on Cancer Secrets where you mentioned something for constipation, but I can't remember what it was. Probably Triphala. That's a good, first step for constipation. TRIPHALA. So constipation, depending on how severe and how prolonged it is, can take many months to finally solve. It can take over 6 months to really reset your gut. And if you go on a long haul flight, like an international flight, you can disrupt your gut significantly, and it takes months to recover. Other things can disrupt your gut, obviously, but like every other disease, the underlying issue is toxicity, pathogenicity, and lack of nutrients. And all of those things cause all the different things that lead to constipation and every other disease. So whether that's mitochondrial dysfunction, problems with ATP production, problems with the microbiome being altered. So all of these different things, problems with autonomic dysfunction. So all of these things and more are related to constipation and other chronic diseases. So you should have bowel movement at least once a day. Like that's non-negotiable. And if you don't get one after taking maybe say like a teaspoon of Triphala, a teaspoon of turmeric mixed up with warm water, drink it. Then if you don't feel a bowel movement coming on, and this should be early in the morning, then you could take a tablespoon or like up to a tablespoon of castor oil. Still don't have bowel movement. You could do a lemon enema. So you squeeze the juice of 1 or 2 lemons into 1.5 liters of water, and into 1.5 liters of warm water. This enema would be on the left side. You do want it to go up as high as possible, and you just need to, you can hold it until you feel like going to the bathroom, or if you don't get a full, satisfying bowel movement out of that, then you hold it a little bit longer, maybe a few minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes. So either you can hold it longer, you can add more lemon, but you need to have full, complete bowel movement in the morning, and it's best to have that before you start eating. So that is one of the ways to help with constipation. But ultimately, you need to do some, detox and support work, and that can take, it can take some time. It is, oftentimes related to stress, right, and being uptight. So, but that doesn't change overnight either. It can take time to loosen up. Beatrice says, I'm 70 and it's a lifelong problem. Yeah. So it's, if you start doing everything right, I would expect that it could take 6 months or more to cure constipation. So my GoToDoc.com/Hakeem has the fastest, most direct avenue to fixing long-term things. So there will be an emotional core to the constipation. Just like everything, there's going to be some emotional core to the problem, and doing the physical changes that help to address the physical issues will help to shift that emotional core into a state where it's easier to resolve. It's not going to resolve the emotional core or the intellectual core or whatever, the belief core or the trauma core of the problem, but it will help you to address it and solve the problem. So somebody like Hakeem Shabazz, they will begin you on the physical work, and then when you're ready for it, it might be very early, it might be a little bit later, they'll start introducing, some simple emotional work and intellectual and spiritual, whatever the real root cause core problem is, they'll start introducing something to help you solve that problem, and when that problem's solved, the physical problem just kind of melts away. It just disappears because you've nipped it in the bud. Somebody anonymous said, probably on the Facebook group, I've had long COVID since March of 2020, and that time the only things that ever helped were cetirizine and famotidine, which are antihistamines. But it's got to the point, over-the-counter antihistamines, got to the point where I can't tell if cetirizine and famotidine are doing anything anymore, but I'm scared to stop them. So like I said, when I did the preview of this question early on, it's not addressing the root cause problem, right? So a lot of people, they mistake the inflammation for the root cause problem. That's like saying the body's like stupid. It doesn't know what it's doing. It's confused. It's like inflamed for no good reason, and we have to stop it from being inflamed. So this is, cetirizine and famotidine are just like one step removed, if that, from the mainstream medical approach, but it's the same exact approach. It's just using like an off-label drug for it. So a lot of mainstream doctors don't even realize that MCAS is like causing the symptoms, mast cell activation syndrome, histamine, right? They don't even realize histamine is what's causing a lot of the symptoms of long COVID and vaccine injury. But the alternative medical doctors who do understand that, they don't take it far enough. That you have to ask, like, okay, why is the body, releasing histamine? And it's not just releasing histamine because it's stupid or broken or doing the wrong thing or confused. It's releasing histamine for a good reason. And that reason, like all other reasons for whatever the body does, that seems to be wrong or makes us uncomfortable, it's due to toxicity, pathogenicity, and nutrient deficiency. That's it. Okay. That's always the cause, right? You don't even have to know which specific toxicity, pathogenicity, or nutrient deficiency there is, as long as you just cover all your bases, right? So yeah, I would be worried about stopping them suddenly too, because when you try to hack the system by forcing the body not to do what it knows you need it to do, right? It knows you need histamine release, you need inflammation. It's trying to get rid of the toxicity, pathogenicity for you, right? And as a part of doing all of that, it's using up even more resources and more nutrients. So it's becoming even more nutrient deficient, but it's doing its best. It's trying to destroy the cells that are invaded by toxins and pathogens. It's trying to rip out the toxins and pathogens from where they're stored in the body. It's trying to eliminate them from the tissue. All it can do in that location is release them into the bloodstream. They go into the bloodstream to your organs of final elimination. And if they don't get thrown out from there, if they don't get thrown out the door, they circulate back to the tissue where it all started. And the fight just keeps going, right? It never stops. It becomes chronic. And that's because your body is not able to eliminate the toxins and the pathogens. And one of the reasons it's not able to is because the longer it works at it, the more nutrient deficient it becomes, the less capable it becomes of actually doing that job that it's trying to do. And especially when you stop it from doing the job by taking antihistamine, it becomes even more incapacitated and even more, you're holding back your own Army, Air Force, and Navy, right? Or some portion of them, right? So the immune system is even more complicated than our Army, Air Force, and Navy, and the different, branches of the armed forces and the different sub branches within them. It's even more complicated than that. And sometimes, nowadays we're getting more and more targeted and more and more capable of shutting off just a tiny little sub branch of the immune system that's causing the problem for us, right? The symptoms that we're concerned about. So those targeted therapies are not, they're somewhat better than broad spectrum therapies that shut down the entire immune system, obviously, because those have a lot more side effects. But the targeted therapies are just a better version of a flawed approach, right? You're still hobbling that specific bit of the immune system that's trying to actually solve your problem for you. It's trying to get rid of the toxicity, pathogenicity by tearing it out, throwing it away. And so that's what cetirizine and famotidine are doing. They're inhibiting that specific part of the immune system that's histamine related, that is trying to tear out and throw away the toxicity, pathogenicity for you. Since you stopped it from doing that, the toxicity and pathogenicity got worse, and eventually cetirizine doesn't even work anymore, right? Now the enemy is bigger and badder than it was before, and it overwhelms that arm of your immune system. So this is what always happens with modern medicine and with most alternative medicine if it's using the same approach. So you have to slowly de-escalate and slowly wean off the cetirizine, famotidine, while you're helping your body to actually eliminate the toxins for good. Ella Jones says, but before that, let me check if there's anything else. No. Okay, Ella Jones says, I need a suggestion. I have severe long COVID. I'm going through severe post-exertional malaise, currently barely moving, in pain, bedridden, weak, exhausted. Just recently, my progress was undone by one incident, and it reset all my symptoms again. I became extremely sensitive to everything, so I'm quitting all the supplements except multivitamins for several days. The only one remains in question, should I postpone it or not, and for how long? Knowing that the fragmented mitochondria is the root cause of all this suffering, it's mitochondria maximizer supplement, coenzyme Q10, 40 milligrams, and PQQ, 20 milligrams. So this might help. You can also look into methylene blue for the mitochondria. That can, there's like a dichotomy. Some people, it's like light and day. It's like turning on a light switch and they just feel fantastic. Other people don't really notice benefit from methylene blue. But methylene blue can be super mitochondrial optimizer. Also, just sunlight can be really helpful and beneficial, and avoiding electromagnetic fields can be like night and day difference for people in this situation. By now, everyone who's listening will know this is toxicity, pathogenicity, and micronutrient deficiency. It's not really a problem with the mitochondria. You have to ask, why are the mitochondria not working? Why are they fragmented? Why, whatever, right? Why? Always go deeper. And so, it's fine if you're overwhelmed, you stop things and then you can restart them at minute doses and gradually work your way up. So even if it seems like a microscopic dose, you can take micro doses of things and, dump out the capsule powder and just separate out a microscopic dose that doesn't cause sensitivity to erupt, and then gradually work your way back up to the things that you really need. But working with somebody could help you determine what you actually need and what you don't need. Worsening of symptoms is a sign of your body trying to fight, trying to kill the things that are harming you and get rid of the toxins that are harming you. And that's an uncomfortable process. So it's actually a good sign. It's actually a sign that your body is struggling to solve the problem. And now basically you just need to support it and help it with the detoxification and killing off the pathogens and supporting your body. So I can't really tell you whether you should take the mitochondrial maximizer supplement right now or not. What I can say is that it's like there's two sides of the coin, right? Like you can get rid of the thing that's hurting you, or you can take something to like boost your energy levels so that you can more effectively fight off the thing that's hurting you. So that's, the mitochondrial maximizer supplement is on this side of the equation. It's not on the side of the equation where it's really solving the real problem. It might help to solve the problem by increasing the energy levels enough that your body can fight off the problem, get rid of the problem. But most people need to really focus on the detox. That's where their missing link is usually going to be. And just boosting mitochondria a bit throughout the body is not going to help enough to expel toxins for most people. It could make you feel better, in the short run, but you still have to really focus on the elimination of the toxins and killing the pathogens, and you have to do it gradually so that it doesn't overwhelm you. For Riddle says, I've had COVID 3 times now. Every time my period is off 5 days. That's how I know I have had it. It's been easier to fight off. First time was 17 days. Third time 10 days. Second time 13 days. Third time 10 days. Heather says, hello, doctor. I had a severe disability from the jab. All systems are disrupted. I'm willing to do the work, but without guidance and proper knowledge, it's impossible to find help like yours. Go to mygotodoc.com/Hakim, HAKIM. That's mygotodoc.com/Hakim, HAKIM. He's the one I go to myself when I'm sick, and he's the one I consult for my own family. He's the one I consulted for my parents and my kids and myself and, friends. And I don't think he'll be available for consultation that much longer just because he's so much in demand. So do it while you can, jump at the opportunity while he's available. All right, Vlaiku Claudia says, how can we find the root cause of chronic gastritis, exocrine pancreas insufficiency, systemic inflammation? If it's the dysregulated nervous system, we still have to live, survive, sleep until we regulate it. It takes months. I do brain retraining and still I'm very close to diabetes. For me, Malungu bark doesn't work. There are ways to get to sleep. If you work hard enough at it, you will go to sleep. You might need to add other things like magnesium and various herbs, other herbs perhaps. You might need to optimize your sleep hygiene. You might need to optimize your sun exposure, your grounding. You might need to stop using technology after dark. You might need to get rid of EMFs. You might need to clean up the environment in your room at night. You might need to lower the temperature. You might need to stop eating, 6 hours before sleeping. You might need to stop turning the lights on after dark. You might need to stop using screens and lights and technology, and getting stressed out after sunset, or even in the entire second half of the day, or even all day, right? So you need to do breath work morning and night, and you just need to do whatever it takes to go to sleep. If you do all of that and you still can't sleep, you just need to consult somebody who's an expert, because they can usually find the thing that's off and fix it for you really easily, right? But a non-expert just won't be able to do it, and somebody just like riffing on your symptoms without knowing deeply what's going on won't be able to do it. And if GHB was available, it puts people to sleep like nothing else. It's a pharmaceutical that has been outlawed. So, yeah. But you can find something that'll work. It's just a matter of, finding somebody who knows how to guide you in it. So yeah, it's possible. I mean, we just recently had a patient who went to Kim Shabazz and hadn't been able to sleep for years, and within a couple of weeks, he was able to crack the code and figure out how to get him to sleep well. So it's just, you just got to go to the right person who knows how to figure out the problem and give you the thing that you actually need yourself. What's the root cause of chronic gastritis, exocrine pancreas insufficiency, and systemic inflammation? Yeah, I mean, we need to take a proper history from you. The root cause isn't always apparent from the end result of it, right? So there's not just one root cause of chronic gastritis that everyone with chronic gastritis shares. There's multiple root causes, and the primary kind of root cause that we can leverage to get you better is going to depend on you and your history. I don't know what it is. So sometimes these diseases are due to taking the wrong steps for earlier problems that you had. Usually that's part of the problem, is that you've approached like your earlier symptoms earlier in life in the wrong way, so that the problem got worse and worse. So a lot of it can be due to, it's like iatrogenic, injuries from doctors, right? So this is a famous statistic that people don't really appreciate properly, that the third leading cause of death officially is properly prescribed physician treatments, right? Like it's not mistakes that they made. It's when they followed the guidelines and did what they were supposed to do, and the side effects killed you. Okay, that's the third leading cause of death in America. And then the mistakes that physicians make that kill people is something like the fifth or sixth or seventh leading cause of death. You combine them, and and the mistakes are actually vastly underreported. So the mistakes might be number one, who knows? But the properly prescribed treatments are bad enough on their own, which should really be enough of an indictment of modern medicine, right? You shouldn't really need anything else to argue that you should avoid it like the plague, and avoid doctors like the plague. Because they are a plague, unfortunately, a well-meaning plague, but a plague nonetheless. Anonymous says, "Hi, the humidity in my house is low. Just wondered how people get on with humidifiers. Are they safe for us with MCAS and asthma?" That's a good question. I don't know the answer. Do you need to raise the humidity in your house? Like why? If you think you do, I'm not sure. So, obviously if you raise the humidity, there may be problems with mold growth in the humidifier itself, as well as in your house and walls and stuff. And that can be problematic for people with asthma and MCAS. Not everyone. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe somebody with asthma and MCAS can chime in about their humidifier that they've used. Joyce Eaton says, "How do I help my ATP production?" So ATP is an energy molecule in the body that's made by mitochondria. And anything that boosts mitochondrial function will help increase ATP production. So methylene blue and those mitochondrial optimizers, the PQQ and the CoQ10, may help. And sunlight is fantastic at increasing energy levels, ATP production in general through quantum effects, which we don't really have time to go into, but very fascinating stuff. And ultimately, you want to not just boost the production, but you want to get rid of the reason that it's underproducing ATP. So maybe that's related to your thyroid, but what is that related to? Maybe it's related to your adrenals, but what is that caused by? And so you have to go further. Again, at the root cause is toxicity, pathogenicity, and micronutrient deficiency. So cover all your bases and you'll get better. Magnesium, somebody just mentioned magnesium. Magnesium is a huge player for me and it works great. Yeah, it's the same for a lot of people. If you've taken magnesium, you didn't feel a difference, you didn't take enough magnesium. So sometimes you take a megadose of magnesium. Some people need a megadose of magnesium to notice the difference. They're severely deficient in it, and it's involved in vitamin D metabolism and the metabolism of thousands of other micronutrients. We already went through that. I don't have colon. I'm reconstructed J pouch, and I didn't take the shots. On all of those things you're saying right now, 100%. Yeah. I was severely impacted by the second jab. All systems were impacted. Thank you for talking about this. Absolutely. Happened from ulcerative colitis. I'm on no meds now. You sound like such an awesome person. Thank you. You should ask my wife. She'll be like, I know the real guy. Okay. A recent naturopath said he wasn't a fan of iodine and selenium for thyroid disease, which I thought was weird because I know Dr. Group's research on iodine. And another naturopath said to use iodine and selenium. This journey is hard when everyone says something different. Yeah, so you can probably make sense of it in certain situations where iodine and selenium may be a problem for some people and not for others. So obviously a lot of thyroid disease is due to iodine deficiency, but not always. So you can, and it depends on, if there's autoimmune thyroid issues, sometimes you can take a nutrient and it can make symptoms get worse, and some people may misinterpret that as the actual problem getting worse when it's not. I mean, sometimes if you just focus on nutrition without the detoxification part of it, you might disrupt the balance, right, between your immune system trying to destroy the illness and the illness kind of fighting back and the pathogens fighting back against the immune system. So you can disrupt this balance by giving one side, more strength than the other side. So if the immune system gets stronger, then all of a sudden the disease will seem worse because the immune system is destroying the tissue even more than it was before. And yet, if you're not able to actually fully eliminate the toxins from that destruction, then you'll have symptoms from that. So you'll have symptoms from the increased destruction of the tissue, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that you want to kind of de-escalate things at the same time so the immune system doesn't have to fight so hard, because you're actually helping the body get rid of the toxins and the pathogens that are in there by supplementing the immune system. So if you do this de-escalation properly, the immune system will actually calm down and your symptoms won't get worse over time if you're doing the detox and the organ support and the elimination support properly. So autoimmune disease is not bad. Nothing your body does is really bad, even up to and including cancer. It's trying to address the toxicity with whatever it's doing, and it's doing the best job it can in the situation that it's in. And you just have to understand that it's trying to help you, not trying to hurt you. And even though it looks painful and it feels painful sometimes, it is trying to help you. It's not trying to destroy you. Something else is trying to destroy you, and your immune system is trying to solve the problem for you. I fixed my thyroid issues in a year and a half on Dr. Weston Child supplements. I had hypothyroidism, no meds. The blood work is perfect now. I eat mainly meat. fantastic. So just a word of warning here that this, you can seem to solve a problem with nutritional supplementation and dietary interventions, but then you can create other problems later on if you continue with that, because it's imbalanced for most people to eat mostly meat. And so I don't know, we'd have to look into the case in order to know whether you've actually solved the deeper problem. But a good indication that you've solved the real problem is that you can renormalize your diet in a healthy way, right? So, reintroduce certain healthy versions of food. But you got to do it with some sort of guidance, right? Like, I wouldn't say like go and start eating bread and stuff right away. What I'd say is like slowly start to introduce the healthiest foods, check to make sure your leaky gut has healed and you don't worsen your symptoms again. That if you can renormalize your diet healthily, then and your disease doesn't come back, that's one of the indicators that you've actually cured the disease and you're not just holding it at bay with lifestyle interventions. The question is, with head to toe symptoms, where does one begin or know what to tackle first? It feels like I'm putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds. It's a good turn of phrase there. I think that's what most people are doing most of the time. And, like I said, you don't really have to know where to begin. You just begin everywhere at once. So it's not as crazy as it sounds. I mean, like you focus on the organs of elimination, your skin and the sweating, your gut and the, elimination there through the bowels, and your kidneys, urination, breath work. You actually do eliminate things through breathing as well. So breath work. And you just, you support all of those. Like I've said, during this live stream before already. And you kill pathogens with broad spectrum antimicrobials like chlorine dioxide solution and colloidal silver and, et cetera. There's a lot of different ones, and you might even end up taking some prescription ones like ivermectin and fenbendazole. I'm not on them now for 8 months. Okay, great. That's fantastic. So eliminating toxins, pathogens, and then supporting the nutrients. That's really where everyone begins. Everyone begins with that. And, like 1%, the difference between different protocols or different people might only be 5 or 10% of the protocol. Like a lot of things might be similar or the same. But the magic happens in the relationship that you develop one-on-one with a real healer who figures out what you specifically need. And even healers themselves go to other healers in order to be healed, because you can't, it's very, very hard to heal yourself at a deep level. It's easy, relatively easy, to hack yourself to feeling better and seeming to have solved your problem. But the real deep healing is, again, it's at the emotional level, and that's where all healing has to eventually end up. And what it's aiming for is fixing that deeper psychological, emotional issue. The working out can be fantastic if you're getting enough sleep and rest and recovery time. And so working out, I would not recommend for most people while they're chronically sick, but it seems like you've recovered. So once you've recovered, obviously working out is fantastic. And before you've gotten to that point, most people, even while chronically sick, will be able to put up with sauna, and a lot of the benefits of working out you can get from sauna and hot baths as well. So those are some of the reasons why they're so beneficial. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week, hopefully. All right. How do I turn this off? If there's any last minute questions, let me know. All right. Bye-bye.